What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Fam God, and about to get into this video as to why George St Pierre is overrated.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now I know somebody probably foaming at the mouth right now. Somebody probably broke their fucking fingers commenting some dumb shit, but it is what it is. You mad? I really don't give a fuck. George St Pierre is overrated. Now, am I saying that George St Pierre isn't a great fighter? No, I'm not that dumb. I would never be that delusional in saying that George St Pierre isn't a great fighter. GSP was a beast. GSP is, in my opinion, probably the greatest wrestler of all time, which is crazy considering he didn't come from a wrestling background. Good IQ. I mean, the dude was great. George St Pierre is, again, one of the three greatest fighters of all time. But you can still be a great fighter, a great athlete, a great anything, and be overrated. And GSP is. For me, what makes George St Pierre overrated is when you clowns try to act like this motherfucker is on Jon Jones level as a fighter. Now, I know hearing that name, Jon Jones, I know this dude didn't just say Jon Jones. This motherfucker test positive multiple times for steroids. This dude has done, we know all the things that Jon has done. We don't got to get into it. The dude has done some wild shit. And no, I'm not condoning it, because you know how you motherfuckers is. You say something good about Jon Jones and now you automatically got to be an advocate for DV. Like, grow the fuck up. So that's how you guys overrate George St Pierre, when you guys compare him to Jon Jones. Now, I can go all day as to why George St Pierre is overrated for me. I mean, this dude and his fans, you get on my nerves, you fucking piss me off. And I know, people gonna say, dude, how the fucking George St Pierre piss you off? I mean, the dude is respectful, he bows, he, wears a gi, he wears a Ninja Turtle headband. I mean, the dude is so honorable and respectful. Like, how can you not like George St Pierre? But for me, it's more than that. I don't give a fuck about him being respectful and this nice guy act and all this shit. I don't give a damn about that. What pisses me off is his fans and how delusional his little fans are. The little GSP dweebs. That's what I call them, the GSP dweebs. The motherfuckers get on my nerve. I see them trying to say George St Pierre is more skilled than Jon Jones. George St Pierre has a significantly better resume than Jon Jones. Like, what the fuck? George St Pierre has a significantly better resume than Jon Jones. Jon Jones fought a bunch of dinosaurs. He was a weight bully. All this shit. We finna get into all that today. Okay? Finna do some exposing today. Can talk about George St Pierre all day, but I'm not gonna take up all your time. So I broke it down into three parts. The first part being the resume. George St Pierre and this overrated ass resume, we finna expose that. We finna debunk the bullshit. George St Pierre has a better resume than Jon Jones. George St Pierre was fighting guys at their best. These guys were so great. These guys were the best of the best at their time. They were the best at their time, but in my opinion, they weren't that fucking good. The second part being the skills. George St Pierre's skills. How you guys, again, overrated. Say that he is more skilled than Jon Jones. That's just ridiculous. It's stupid. So easy to debunk that. I see comments here and there where guys will say if George St Pierre and Jon Jones were the same size, George St Pierre would beat him because of his skills and all that. Like, we finna debunk that, because that's just crazy. And the third part is gonna be the ability to hang today. And that part probably pisses me off more than the other two, because that's just so easy to debunk. Like, I can't prove that if Jon Jones and George St Pierre were the same size, Jon would beat the fuck out of him. I can't prove that. I mean, I know it, but I can't prove it. But the ability to hang today, I mean, for me, it's certain things that we can look at to prove why this dude couldn't hang today. I saw a poll a few days ago where you had George St Pierre versus Kamaru Usman in their prime, and George St Pierre won 90% of the vote. Again, dumb shit, delusional shit. George St Pierre would beat prime Kamaru Usman based on what? We gonna get into that, but this the dumbest shit ever. And yeah, but those are my three main points that we gonna tackle in this video today. And yeah, we finna get into it. Let the exposing begin.
Hey, who won't smoke? Telling me face to face. Remember back in 11th grade, I dirted up my only case. Get my round of applause in a couple months, I done made a way. On why niggas dropped the Rollies and went to the Cartiers. No, I'm a hood nigga, I mismatched designer with the J. Don't still post on the blog, eat a boss of churches before a state. A mirrors in a Burberry trench coat, extend to hide the drape. Backdoor gang, I'm king snake, still quick to bake your ass a cake. Brr. Might take this pussy, try and snap it up and go live with it. He try to buy it back.
Now, first part, the first thing we're gonna tackle is the resume between George St Pierre and Jon Jones. Now, initially, I thought this was pretty cut and dry. I thought this was pretty unanimous that Jon Jones had the best resume of any MMA legend, period. I didn't even think this was a conversation. But I first started to hear about this after Jon Jones won the heavyweight title, which is crazy, right? After Jon Jones won the heavyweight title, I started to browse YouTube, watching different MMA content creators' reaction, and I stumbled across Luke Thomas. Now, Luke Thomas, a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason. I kind of like Luke Thomas. I think he's really good at what he does. I love the setup he has, real professional. And he's been around for a while, and you know, you get used to seeing the same people. So again, I like Luke Thomas, but he said something that was just strange to me. And again, this was the first time me hearing it, and I was like, what the fuck did he just say? Did you just say that shit, Luke Thomas? I want you guys to check out that video, and after that we gonna get on his ass today for that shit.
Employees and the broadcast were saying that. A lot of people do believe that. But there is some dispute about whether it's actually GSP, because he had to fight much tougher guys, which I do think is true. So BC, where are you on this idea?
In the public's eye, it seems right now. You just made a comment that I think you said it out of context. You said GSP fought better guys. Do you mean that? Because overall, you think GSP fought better competition?
Do I think he fought better competition every time? Certainly not. Do I think in general his strength of schedule was tougher than Jon's? Yes, I do.
Luke Thomas. Come on, man. What the fuck are you talking about? With all due respect, because I do like you, but what the fuck are you talking about? George St Pierre fought better guys than Jon Jones? He did? Because I didn't know that. What better guys are you talking about, Luke? Talking about Dan Hardy, the Dan Hardy who was on a 4-fight win streak before fighting GSP, and after fighting GSP lost 3 straight. Talking about that guy. What about Thiago Alves, who was on a 7-fight win streak, and after fighting GSP lost 9 of his next 15. 9. Only won 6 fights out of 15. I'm guessing that's the great win you're talking about. You talking about Matt Hughes, an all-time legend, I give you that, but afterwards became a 500 fighter. Or you talking about Nick Diaz, who fought GSP coming off of a loss to Carlos Condit, and after fighting GSP lost to Anderson Silva? Or are you talking about Carlos Condit, the guy who was on a 5-fight win streak, and after that lost 8 of his next 12 fights? Out of 12 fights, he only won 4. Are those the great wins you're talking about, Luke? I just want to know. I'm sure you're not gonna respond to me, and that's fine. But I just want to know: are those the great wins you're talking about? Luke don't even have to respond. The GSP fans, y'all respond. Those the great wins you're talking about? Now, don't get me wrong. He did have some great wins. Let's talk about Jake Shields. Jake Shields was a great win. Jake Shields was, I don't know, was on like a 12 or 13 fight win streak before fighting GSP, with good names on his resume like Carlos Condit, Paul Daly, Robert Lawler, Dan Henderson. Jake Shields had some great wins, and he was also on a good streak. So that was a great win. John Fish was a great win. John Fish was on a 13 fight win streak, and after George St Pierre beat him, went on a 5-fight win streak. Those were great wins in my opinion, but those two guys were also one-dimensional fighters. Let's talk about that. Grapplers with shit stand-up. No disrespect to Jake Shields. I don't never want to run into him if he see this video, but in that fight, the dude was punching like a girl. I'm just keeping it 100. If you look at that fight, it looked like the dude had just learned to throw punches for the first time in his life. We're going to talk about those fights a little more in the video. But again, those were good wins. But comparing them to Jon Jones wins is just crazy to me. And I'm not going to even bring up BJ Penn. BJ Penn was a lightweight. BJ Penn fought the majority of his career at lightweight. So what are these great wins you talking about? Now, this isn't the only thing that Luke Thomas said in their live stream. And it's a reason why I brought up how those guys performed after fighting GSP. I want you guys to check this video out as well.
I don't see that.
I think in general, GSP fought better guys, but I don't think he always fought better guys, for sure. I want to be clear about that. I don't think that's always true.
Okay,
also,
who are the better guys comparatively? Like, actually compare this. I'm interested, Luke. You got me interested. Okay?
So GSP, okay, I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Everyone's like, well, GSP fought better guys. It's true. I mean, here's a couple ways you can kind of know that, right? Well, the average age, I looked this up and I made sure I did the math before today's show. So the average age of Jon's opponents in title fights, obviously we're talking all UFC here, is 32. The average age of GSP's opponents in title fights is 29. But that's a little bit deceiving, right? First of all, 32 is hardly old.
35-pound weight difference.
Now, you guys heard Luke Thomas bring up the age argument, right? And I heard this before, that Jon Jones fought guys past their prime. GSP was fighting guys in their prime on the street. GSP fought better guys. So the question I gotta ask is, if GSP was fighting guys in their prime, why did those guys fall off after George St Pierre beat him? Which one of y'all want to answer that? Why did Dan Hardy lose 3 straight? If he was like in his peak, if he was, this young guy that was in his peak and was just getting better, why did he fall off? I mean, why did he lose 3 straight after that? Why did Thiago Alves only win 6 fights out of 15? I mean, he was in his prime, right? He was young. I think he was like 25, 26. So why did he fall off? And he was so young and so good. Why did he fall off? I want y'all to answer that. Why did Matt Hughes become a 500 fighter afterwards? Why did Nick Diaz lose right after fighting GSP? Why did he lose to old man Anderson Silva? Why did Carlos Condit only win 4 fights out of 12? I'm saying, y'all got to answer this shit. If these guys were in their prime, why the fuck were they falling off? Why the fuck did Jake Shields lose right after that, getting TKO'd by Jake Ellenberger? All these guys that y'all glaze and act like they were just great wins, why did the majority of them fall off? Because I look at how a guy performs after the fact. I look at a guy like Alexander Volkanovski. The dude beat Max Holloway 3 times. Those 3 wins are some of the greatest wins in UFC history. Those are some of the greatest wins that any great fighter has ever gotten. Beating such a great fighter in Max Holloway 3 straight times. You could never make the case that Max Holloway was slowing down, because after losing to Volk, the dude continued to win, continued to beat top contenders, beating guys like Calvin Kattar, beating guys like Arnold Allen, beating guys like Yair Rodriguez. So you could never make the case that Max Holloway, he didn't beat Max Holloway at his best. Yes, he did. Because Max Holloway is continuing to win. As we speak, Max Holloway is about to fight for the title again against Ilia Topuria. So those wins for Volk are just aging gracefully, because Max Holloway is continuing to win, continuing to prove that he's still number 2 behind Volk. He just can never eclipse Volk. So that's a great win. And I bring that up to talk about Jon's wins. Let's talk about Glover Teixeira. At the time when Jon beat Glover was on a 20-fight win streak. Jon beat him, and Glover later on would become a light heavyweight champion, beating Jan Blachowicz. Let's talk about Big Daniel Cormier, who was on a 15-fight win streak at the time when Jon beat him, beating good fighters like Roy Nelson, Frank Mir, Dan Henderson, beating guys like Anthony Rumble Johnson twice, beating Alexander Gustafsson, moving up to the heavyweight division and knocking out Stipe Miocic and having two more tough fights with Stipe Miocic. Jon Jones dominated him in a decision, and then knocked him out, KO and put him to sleep. Night. Even some of Jon's earlier wins against guys like Lyoto Machida and Vitor Belfort, 2 guys who would later go on to fight for titles in the middleweight division. Lyoto Machida after losing to Jon Jones, beating great fighters like Ryan Bader, beating guys like Dan Henderson, beating guys like Gegard Mousasi, and fighting Chris Weidman for the middleweight title. Vitor Belfort, a guy who went down and wreaked havoc on the fucking middleweight division. TRT Vitor. Yeah, I remember that. KO Michael Bisping. KO Luke Rockhold. KO Dan Henderson. 3 straight KOs. Jon Jones, the motherfuckers barely even had a chance. Dominated them. That's how I look at it. Those guys are continuing to win, continue to prove they are among the best fighters in the world. George St Pierre don't have guys who did that, who continue to fight for championships. Alexander Gustafsson, after Jon Jones beat him, fought for the title twice, continuing to prove that he one of the best fighters in the world. George St Pierre, none of the guys he beat proved it. So how the fuck did he fight better guys than Jon Jones? Who the fuck you talking about? Thiago Alves? Fuck out of here. We about to get into the next argument. The second part of my rant is gonna be the skills. And I'm not gonna take too long on this section. Took a little time on the last section, and it's really pretty easy to go through this. So let's talk about the wrestling. I'm actually gonna get it to George St Pierre. I'm gonna give George St Pierre the wrestling. The dude was a great wrestler. Again, in my opinion, probably the greatest wrestler of all time. And I went into this expecting to get the wrestling to Jon Jones, considering he out-wrestled great wrestlers like Daniel Cormier, Ryan Bader, guys like that. So I was fully expecting to come into this giving it to Jon Jones. But after going back and watching George St Pierre fights, watching how he wrestled, I mean, he wasn't your stereotypical, blast a double leg kind of wrestler. I mean, the dude was very skilled in his transitions, transitioning from double to single. And when he wanted to get you to the ground, he typically got the guys on the ground. And that's really more that I could say about Jon Jones. He, in his prime, Jon could get anybody to the ground, but over time he kind of strayed away from the wrestling, whereas George St Pierre seemed like, to me, just continued to get better. So I'm gonna give George St Pierre the wrestling. The grappling, I'm gonna give to Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a more dangerous grappler than George St Pierre. Jon Jones was a finisher. George St Pierre don't finish no fucking body. Throughout his entire championship reign, I can't remember one finish. After he got his ass KO'd by Matt Serra, like, who did he finish? Who the fuck did he finish? Matt Hughes? Yeah, it's probably the only one. But John Fitch, no. Thiago Alves, no. Jake Shields, no. Dan Hardy, no. Like, he wasn't a finisher. Jon Jones finished Quentin Rampage Jackson on the ground. He finished Gus on the ground. He finished Lyoto Machida. It wasn't on the ground, but it was a grappling sequence. He choked him out. He finished Vitor Belfort on the ground. Like, Jon was a finisher. Just recently finished Cyril Gahn on the ground. Like, Jon was a finisher. GSP don't finish no fucking body. So the grappling, obviously, I'm gonna give to Jon Jones. Striking, and this is the reason why I say you guys overrate George St Pierre's skills, because y'all talk about this dude like he is just some great striker, and he wasn't. I brought up the Jake Shields and the John Fitch fights. Y'all saw Jake Shields striking. It was horrible. It was an abomination of striking. He should petition to get those videos removed from the internet immediately. But he bust GSP up. John Fitch too. Two horrible strikers, and George St Pierre supposed to be this great striker and all this shit, but he got bust up. I couldn't imagine Jon Jones getting bust and cut up by guys who aren't great strikers. But that's what happened to GSP. He got fucked up by both of them. So get the fuck out of here with George St Pierre being this great striker. He was a point striker. He was a point fighter on the feet. And y'all be the same motherfuckers who get on Israel Adesanya and call him a point fighter and all this shit. That's exactly what George St Pierre was when it was on the feet. Stick the little weak jab in your face, do the little dumbass Superman punch leg kick combination, and people act like, oh my god, he doing something amazing. Man, please, he was not a great striker. Jon Jones is a great striker. Come on, man. The innovation that Jon Jones brought into the sport, the spinning elbow. He didn't invent the oblique kicks, but he damn sure made it famous. Oblique kicks, side kicks to the leg. the step in elbow, throwing it like a jab. I mean, for me, the striking, Jon Jones has damn near every offensive striking arsenal that any fighter can have. So how the fuck is George St Pierre just this better striker than Jon Jones, or even on the level? I think the gap between the striking between Jon Jones and George St Pierre is wider than the gap between they wrestling. I think Jon Jones is right there when it comes to the wrestling. George St Pierre just edges him out for me. But the striking, it's not even a debate. So striking, yes, I'm gonna give it to Jon Jones. The cardio, that's a wash. The chin, obviously I'm gonna give it to Jon Jones. George St Pierre has been knocked the fuck out. He got knocked out by Sarah. Johnny Hendricks had him doing the stanky leg. So the chin, I'm gonna give it to Jon Jones. IQ, Jon Jones. The way he set up Cyril Gane through the straight, Jon Jones wrapped him up, took him down. He knew he wasn't gonna protect his neck coming up. Jon Jones choked him out. The way he set up Daniel Cormier with the head kick, brilliant. So IQ, I'm gonna give it to Jon Jones all day long. George St Pierre just out wrestled strikers and out struck grapplers, or out point fought grapplers. I mean, it was nothing intelligent about this shit. You motherfuckers that talk like he the Einstein of MMA, and he wasn't. His game plan was pretty common sense. Outstrike the grappler with horrible striking. Out wrestle the striker with horrible wrestling. Get the fuck out of here with the IQ bullshit. So Jon Jones clears GSP all day long when it comes to skills and all the intangibles it takes to be a great fighter. So yeah, we're gonna get into the next argument. Let's go. Now, finally made it to the end of my rant, the last section. George St Pierre wouldn't be able to hang today. Now, you guys heard me bring up the poll that I saw a few days ago saying that George St Pierre versus Prime Usman, GSP winning over 90% of the vote. Now, if GSP won, let's say 60% of the vote, even 70% of the vote, it wouldn't have pissed me off as much as it did. I mean, obviously I don't agree, but that GSP would beat Prime Usman, but what pissed me is the 90%. The fact that GSP won over 90% of the vote. And it just showed me that, you know, I don't know if it's nostalgia or the inability to let go of your heroes, the inability to let go of you know, the past, people who you saw growing up. And I guess, you know, guys got the highlight reel of GSP playing in the back of their head when they think about that fight. GSP dropping John Fitch all over the place, GSP out wrestling everybody. So you guys think that would be Usman, but you guys got to start living in reality. George St Pierre enjoyed a significant skill advantage over everybody he fought at that time. The majority of the guys that GSP fought were one-dimensional fighters. Matt Hughes, one of the greatest fighters of all time, but he was a wrestler with shit stand-up. Go back and watch that George St Pierre Matt Hughes 2 fight. It's one of the most embarrassing performances I ever seen in my life. It looked like somebody, they grabbed somebody out of the stands, put him on some big ass shorts and said, go fight GSP. Like, it was horrible. Dan Hardy, a striker with horrible grappling. John Fitch, grappler with horrible striking. Jake Shields, grappler with horrible striking. Thiago Alves, striker with horrible grappling. Nobody was really well-rounded around that time, but BJ Penn was a lightweight. Another reason why I say George St Pierre wouldn't be able to hang today, I really look at the Johnny Hendricks fight. That's really the litmus test for me that kind of proves why George St Pierre wouldn't be able to hang today. Because if you watch that fight, Johnny Hendricks had the clear strength advantage. When they was clenched up against the cage, Johnny moved GSP around effortlessly. Didn't even look like he was trying. When George St Pierre tried to do the same thing, you could tell he was expending significantly more energy. Johnny Hendricks was clearly the more stronger man. I heard people say Kamaru Usman wouldn't be able to out-wrestle George St Pierre. Really? Because I disagree. I think Kamaru Usman would be able to out-wrestle and bully GSP because Johnny Hendricks did. I really don't think you guys remember that fight like I do. Or if you do, you just ignore it. You just want to say GSP will win. Because if you watch that fight, Johnny Hendricks controlled and bullied GSP. Anytime he tried to take GSP down, he did, and he kept him there. The few times George St Pierre did take Johnny down, Johnny popped right back up to the feet. That's why George St Pierre, he didn't want to fucking fight guys like Anderson Silva or Johnny Hendricks, because he know anytime he in a fight where he can't control where the fight goes, he know he fucked. That would be the same thing today. Another reason why I say he wouldn't be able to win is the evolution of the size of these guys today. George St Pierre was 5'10". That would be a average lightweight today. The majority of guys he was fighting with 5'9". Johnny Hendricks, Josh Koscheck, Thiago Alves, Matt Hughes. All these guys were 5'9". Dan Hardy, he was listed at 6 feet, but he looked like the smaller man in there than me. Like all these guys he was fighting with 5'9". Matt Serra was 5'6". The few guys he did fight that were 6 feet tall, Carlos Condit, these guys were lanky. Dan Hardy listed at 6 feet. Dude, these dudes was lanky. Usman is 6 feet tall and huge, jacked up. Colby Covington over 6 feet tall. Shavkat like 6'2". Hamzat 6'2". Wonderboy 6'2". George not beating these guys. He was, and again, these guys are well-rounded. These are well-rounded, bigger guys. And you guys talking about he would just be able to hang today and compete with all these guys. I'm not gonna say he wouldn't be able to compete. I wouldn't disrespect him and say he couldn't compete, but he wouldn't win those fights. I think George St Pierre would get finished and beat and bullied by all these guys. It would be competitive for a while, but that little weak-ass jab at range and being a wet blanket for 25 minutes, that shit not working today. You're not pulling that shit off against Usman. You're not doing that shit against fucking Gilbert Burns. I don't think he beat Usman, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, Shavkat, Hamzat, Wonderboy. Oh, he would beat Wonderboy, he'd take him down. Why Rory McDonald did? He styled on Rory McDonald. So I disagree. I think George St Pierre would have a hard time against Wonderboy. I don't think he beat Bilal Muhammad. I don't think he beat Jeff Neal. I truly don't think he would be like a top. I think he would probably be top 10, maybe. And that's a big maybe. George St Pierre, I don't believe he would hang today. Just look at the fight. Look at the Johnny Hendricks fight. He got bullied. And I'm pretty sure Usman would do the same thing. Oh, Johnny Hendricks, he was juiced to the gills. Would you to be the same? Yeah, I would be the same motherfucker that'll call Usman the CEO of EPO. So which one is it? Are both of them juiced? Is Usman juicing too? Or is he not? Which one is it? Give it up, man. You guys got to give it up. GSP would not be able to hang today. He would get his ass beat the fuck up today. He might be able to compete for a round or two, but after that, the gig is up. They running straight through him. You telling me Prime Usman putting that pressure on him, sticking that jab in his face, and being a dog in there? You telling me GSP not having nothing to offer him on the feet? No sting in his shots to bag Usman up? He gonna bore you to a decision with Usman winning the decision? I don't think so. And then I'm sure some people might say, oh, with GSP, he got the coaching advantage. He got Faraz Zahabi, the most overrated fucking coach in MMA history. Who the fuck has he produced other than GSP, which I think that was Greg Jackson, honestly. Who the fuck has he produced other than GSP, maybe, and Roy McDonald? Who else has he produced? Because he said the hand of death and all this shit with Conor McGregor. People think he's some genius or something. This motherfucker ain't produced nobody. Usman would have Trevor Whitman, a real coach. Not this boring ass, overrated ass Faraz Zahabi. The most overrated coach ever. He not Trevor Whitman. He not Matt Hume. He not Greg Jackson. He not any of these guys. Overrated as hell, so he wouldn't even have the coaching advantage. That goes to Usman. Yeah, man, y'all gotta get this shit up, bro. It's not even a conversation. Not to me, it's not. I saw GSP. You guys wanna reinvent who he was and change who GSP was. I don't. I just see him for who he was. He was a great fighter at that time. But comparing him to Jon Jones, comparing him to these guys today, it's just stupid. That boring ass try to win a decision shit not working today. It's not. People say George St Pierre is one of the few guys who would be a champion today. I disagree. I think he the only all-time great who wouldn't be a champion today. Who wouldn't even be ranked today. Will barely be ranked today. I think Anderson could be a champion today. I think Demetrius Johnson could be a champion today. Jon Jones, obviously. Cain Velasquez, I think he could be a champion today. Prime Stipe, I think he could be a champion today. Fedor, I believe, could hang today. George couldn't. He the only motherfucker I think couldn't hang today. Jose Aldo would still be a great fighter today. And one more thing I want to address in this video is you clowns that try to compare GSP coming back to beat Michael Bisping and comparing that and saying that was more impressive than Jon Jones coming back to beat Cyril Gane. Dude, y'all don't know how stupid this shit sound. Michael Bisping is one of the worst modern champions in UFC history. I often have this theory that because Michael Bisping was so important to the UFC branching into Europe, that the UFC gave him favorable matchups instead of throwing him to the wolves like the majority of middleweights at that time. You would have number 7 ranked Michael Bisping fighting motherfucking Talis Lattis and CB Dollaway. When you got guys like Gegard Mousasi in the division, you got Yoel Romero in the division, you got Jacare Souza in the division, you got Lyoto Machida in the division. You got all these great fighters in the division, yet Bisping is fighting Talis Lattis, and then you gave him old man Anderson Silva to say, oh, this is impressive. He beat Anderson Silva. Man, that was a washed up, way past his prime Anderson. That was nowhere near a peak Anderson Silva. Prime Anderson Silva would have knocked Bisping ass clean the fuck out. But y'all love overrating this bullshit ass win. Michael Bisping, throughout the majority of his career, was a slightly above average fighter. Anytime he fought the upper echelon of the middleweight division, he got his ass ran through like a hot samurai sword through fucking butter. Wasn't competitive. Vitor Belfort wasn't competitive. Dan Henderson wasn't competitive. He only made it competitive in the second fight when Dan Henderson was down there 60 years old in a rocking chair. And even that fight, he barely won. And Dan Henderson wasn't even ranked. And you trying to compare that to Jon Jones beating Cyril Gane, the number 1 ranked heavyweight at the time? You can say, well, Cyril Gane is a one-dimensional fighter. He is a better fighter than Michael Bisping, period. And it's not even close, especially that version of Bisping that GSP fought. One-eyed Bisping, old man Bisping. This is not even the prime Michael Bisping, who wasn't really that fucking good. So I wanted to address that. Stop trying to compare GSP winning the middleweight title against Bisping and saying that's impressive. That wasn't impressive. That's why it didn't affect his all-time great status at all. It didn't make him far and away to go over Jon Jones. Even before Jon Jones came back and won the heavyweight title, the majority of fans still said Jon Jones was the GOAT even after GSP came back and won the middleweight title, because we all saw that was bullshit. We all saw he cherry-picked Bisping, the most beatable champion at that time. The most beatable champion ever. You can say Matt Serra the worst champion of all time, but I would like to think that Matt Serra was at least a top 10 welterweight even at that time. You can maybe argue, no, he wasn't, but I can argue that Michael Bisping wasn't even a top 15 fighter at that time. I think 15 fighters at that time would have beat Bisping. So stop with this shit. Give it up, bro. Give it up. This the end of this section, but I don't give a fuck how y'all feel about it. I don't care. I know some people gonna be mad as hell. How dare you talk about George St Pierre like this? How dare you try to diminish George St Pierre like this? I'm not diminishing. I'm not saying he's not a great fighter. George St Pierre was great, but stop overrating him.